This is episode 30, the direct object. Now, as I've mentioned earlier, English relies on word order for meaning, and the word order that was used is this one here, SVO, or subject, verb, object. Now, we discussed subjects in video 27, and we looked at verbs in great detail when we were doing word classes in videos 11 to 15, and then again in verb 28. When people refer to the verb as a function, they sometimes call it the predicator because it is the first word in the predicate. So a verb is one verb, a verb phrase is a group of verbs, and a predicator is a verb phrase in reference to their function. But as I mentioned, for ease of communication, I'm going to call all of these the verb and distinguish them only when necessary. More particularly, grammarians may find this offensive, and I'm sorry about that. Now, in this video, we're going to check out the direct object of the sentence. So, if the subject of the sentence is the person or thing doing an action, then the direct object of that sentence is a person or thing that the action is being done to. Let's take a look at this sentence here. I am throwing a ball. Okay, so in this sentence, we can ask ourselves who is throwing the ball? Well, I am. So that makes this the subject of the sentence. I'll put it at the top here. S for the subject. What am I doing? Well, I am throwing. So am throwing here is the verb. And finally, what am I throwing? I'm throwing a ball. So that, a ball, is the direct object. And that's our basic breakdown of the functions subject, verb, object in the sentence. So let's take a look at some objects in action from Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland over the page here. I've got 5 sentences. Let's see how we go. Okay, at last the caterpillar took the hooker from out of its mouth. In this situation I find it very helpful to find the verb first. And in this situation, I think the verb here is took. Who took? Well, the caterpillar took. So that's our subject. What did the caterpillar take? It took the hooker. Okay, so there it is. That's our direct object. Subject, verb, direct object. Let's have a look at the next one. You'll get used to it in time. Here we have that contraction again of the subject and the verb. So, well, certainly the first auxiliary verb. So you'll is actually you will, which makes you the subject. And all, part of the verb phrase here, will get used to it, or will get used to rather. So that's the verb, okay? What will we get used to? Well, we'll get used to it. So that's our direct object. Now, it does feel a bit weird to have a direct object following a preposition because we know that direct objects can't follow prepositions. But in this instance, as we can clearly see, to is actually part of a complex verb, used to, rather than a preposition to it. So in this instance, it's not a problem. Let's keep on going. Alice folded her hands. So here we have folded as our verb. Who folded? Well, Alice did, so that's the subject. What did she fold? She folded her hands. So her hands is the direct object. I think you'd be getting pretty good at this by now, getting used to it. I bet you could do the next two all by yourself, but let's do it together. Ah, you should see 'em. Now this here is an interjection, so it doesn't actually interact with the rest of the words. So therefore, we're just going to pursue or follow through our rhythm of finding subject, verb, object without worrying too much about the interjection there at the beginning. So we can find the verb, which is should see. So there's our auxiliary should and the lexical see. So there's our verb. And then you is our subject. Who should see them? We should. What should we see? We should see M. M being, of course, a shortening of them, or an elision of the th to make M. Okay, she helped herself to tea. It's our last one. What did she do? Well, she helped. That's our verb. Who did? She did. Who did she help? She helped herself Now in this situation, herself is the direct object. Okay, so as you can see, we are very much following the pattern of subject, verb, object in all of these sentences. And if you managed to do some of that before I did, well done. Now that we've done all that, we should be able to draw a few conclusions, just like we did for the subject. So let's write some of those conclusions down. Now, what conclusions can we draw? First of all, the direct object seems to follow the verb, okay? So let's write that. All right, number 2, we know that the object, like the subject, is a noun phrase or a pronoun. But in this instance, the pronoun must be in the object form. That is me, you, him, her, it, us, and them, as well as reflexive pronouns, myself, yourself, himself, herself, itself, ourselves, yourselves, and themselves. So let's write that down as our number 2 observation. And 3, unlike the subject, a sentence does not have to take an object. That is, it is not a compulsory part or an obligatory part of a sentence. So let's write that one. And this is my cue here to stop talking directly about the direct object and instead prepare you for something that I mentioned in the last video, that is another way of categorizing verbs as either transitive or intransitive. And this becomes relevant here because transitive verbs are verbs that do take an object, and intransitive verbs are verbs that do not take an object. But rather than mix that up in the same little video, I'm actually going to give it its own special video all unto itself. So right here, I'm going to just sign off from direct object, take what you know, and we'll continue with it in the next video, which is going to focus on transitive and intransitive verbs and how they interact with the direct object as well. So I look forward to that, but until then, thanks for watching The Language Code.